I don't wanna be just someone that's new. I speak my mind so free, so you could hear the truth. Yeah, I know that we all have fear.
Well, hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is The Truth for Youth with Mike and Murphy. Guys, in a world where there's so many lies and half-truths and you don't know who to trust, who to believe, that's why this podcast exists. It exists to tell you the truth, not my truth. It's God's truth, biblical truth. And today I'm excited because I have another guest. I have NFL tight end Trey Burton, former Venice standout star, and he's going to be joining us today via a Zoom call and on the podcast. So we're excited to have him. Obviously, he is a man of faith. Obviously, he's a big name in Venice, the city where I am. And so we're going to talk to him and hear his story on his journey of faith and kind of where he is and kind of some of the highs, the lows, and the struggles and things that he has learned throughout his career and what he can give you guys as teenagers, as young adults, as you're still trying to figure out life. You know, what are some truths that he has recognized throughout his career that can help us as we're continuing to grow, right? We're never really arrive as being, perfect Christians by any means. It's a journey. So what are some things that we can be doing to build on that? So Trey, man, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.
Well, man, first of all, it is great seeing you back playing. I know you've battled some injuries and kind of been out for a little bit, but now you're back. You had an amazing game this past week. It's good to see you out there and dominating. So it's congratulations on doing that. All right, so Trey, let's take it. Oh, go ahead.
It feels good to be back. It feels good to be back,
man. I bet. Honestly. I bet you've been like itching to get back.
Yeah.
All right, so Trey, let's take it all the way back, man. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood. You grew up in Venice. Don't know, were you born in Venice, Florida?
No, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Was only there for a couple of days, and then my mom and dad split, and my mom went to Atlanta and had my middle brother Clay, who is still at Venice, teaching and coaching at the high school.
Yeah.
And then we moved from Georgia to I think Sarasota or Venice, maybe Bradenton. Really early on, maybe, when I was like 1 or 2-ish. And so I've been down there ever since.
Okay. So take us a little bit through your childhood. So your mom and your dad split up at that age. So you're basically just with your mom and your brother at the time. So what was your childhood like? Was your mom taking you to church? Were you already kind of established into a religion or anything at that time?
Yeah, I mean, we were really fortunate because my mom's parents lived down there with us. So whenever my mom moved, her parents moved with her. And so we always had like a good support staff. Like my grandpa was my father figure growing up until he passed when I was in high school. And they were always there, to help my mom with whatever she needed, whether it's food, whether it's, she needed them to watch us, whatever the scenario was, if she wanted to ship us off up there for the weekend so she could have a weekend, to herself and have some sanity. So we were fortunate to have them. And, we grew up in the church, we would go every Sunday. I would say it was more of a religious thing, where you would just go on Sundays, Sunday morning, you'd sing, you'd go to church, and then that was really about all you did. We'd pray before dinner, but there really wasn't much, if I'm remembering correctly, much other than just going to church, and saying we went to church on Sunday.
Right. Okay. So where does that pivot for you a little bit? At what age do you start kind of getting more into either church or having a relationship with God?
Yeah, I think, the same time for a lot of people, honestly, when you get to college, when you have to walk it out on your own, you can't be dependent on anybody else's faith except for yours. You don't have your parents taking you physically, making you go to church. You don't have, your grandparents, whoever you're living with at that time, you can't be forced to go to church. You kind of have to do it on your own. And you got to wake up on Sunday mornings when, you have so many other things you could be doing Saturday night, late in the night, or even Sunday, during the day. So it really wasn't until my junior year in college until it really started becoming real to me. I've always loved God. I've always wanted to be a Christian. I always, enjoyed going to church, but it wasn't until, I actually chose to do it on my own and, was seeking it out myself that it became real for me.
Okay. Now, if I'm right, you were like in kindergarten, right? When you first prayed to receive
Yeah.
Christ. I think your kindergarten
Yeah.
teacher led you to Christ to some extent.
Yep.
Is it a Christian school?
Yeah, I went to Venice Christian School. Yeah,
Okay.
so at Venice Christian School, I remember Miss Korecki was my teacher, and she um, asked if anybody wanted to pray to receive Jesus into their hearts. But when you're that young, it's more about like I want to go to heaven over hell. It's not necessarily like a relationship thing. And so
Absolutely.
obviously, anybody with the right mind would be like, yeah, I want to go to
Of
heaven with
course.
no pain and no crying and no sorrows. Like, of course, rather than being burned, for the rest of my life. So it for that it was more of just that reason. And then like I said, as I'm growing up, it's still more of like not necessarily like forced, but that's what we did on Sundays. So it was so beat into us and our grandparents. Grandfather was a deacon, grandmother played the piano, was in the choir. So it was just more of that. There wasn't as much relationship. There was times, like I said, I love God. There's times when I was in church on Sundays where I was like, man, I really feel the Spirit's presence, and I really think this is something that I want to take my next step in. But the daily grind of life happens, and you kind of get washed away with the waves a lot of times, especially when you're that young and you don't really have a foundation, or you don't really have what's the best word to really, you're kind of just getting pushed by the wind wherever the wind blows, for the most
Yeah,
part.
no solid foundation there. Yeah. So when you were in middle school and high school, were you involved in youth group or anything or any activities? I'm guessing you were involved a little bit with FCA, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a lot of FCA. We never did youth group just because we always had sporting events, practice
Yeah.
and stuff during the week on Wednesday nights. I think that's when it was back when I was in middle school and stuff. So yeah, never did that. But was really highly involved with FCA. And I would say one of the FCA guys back when I was in high school, his name was Rodney Ring. He
Yeah.
was one of the dudes that kind of helped me solidify, my faith. He was one of the guys that kind of showed me from a father figure standpoint, like what is a Christian? Why do you want to be a Christian? What do Christians do? And so he was, when I was, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, throughout high school, he was one of those guys that was every Wednesday morning we'd meet, at 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. at the Clock restaurant right in front of the high school, which is not there anymore. Rest in peace for the Clock restaurant. But yeah, he would just kind of pour into me. So I've been really fortunate, man. My whole life, I've had guys, men of God, trying to pour into me, even when I've tried to run from it, or even when I've had 1 foot in and 1 foot out, or even when I've been all in. I've in all those seasons, I've had somebody who I could definitely count on to give me some truth.
Yeah. Well, I am going to make this disclaimer. I was not the youth pastor at First Baptist Church of Venice when Trey was still in high school. Had that been the
Sure.
case, I'm sure he would have been super active
No
with the
doubt.
youth group. So Trey had actually already graduated before I became the youth pastor there. But yeah, so I'll say that disclaimer because I'm sure that would have been the case. But yeah, Rodney's a great friend of mine. I'm still very active with FCA along with your brother. Your brother does a great job, Clay, working with
Yeah.
the Venice High FCA and plugging into those football guys as well as baseball. Even though he's a football guy, I know he does a lot of strength training for the baseball team. And then Rodney and I also get to be character coaches for the Venice High baseball team. So we get to kind of cut up with Clay. And of course, Clay,
Awesome.
he's a man of God as well. And he likes to try to pour in spiritually to those guys. So it's fortunate that teenagers can have multiple resources. Like you said, it's just important to have somebody. And even though, you weren't necessarily plugged into a youth group, you had Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which that's FCA, and even Rodney pouring into you. Because you've mentioned you didn't really have a father figure. You had your grandfather and maybe Rodney. So I know you've also talked about you have other mentors in your life when you get to college and even in NFL, you've had
Yeah.
various mentors. So talk a little bit about the mentors and just the importance that you believe in having someone as a male, having another godly male helping you, mentoring you, maybe giving you a little bit of wisdom and direction.
Yeah. I mean, I would say once you get to college, it kind of changes from mentor to like somebody or people that you're doing life with,
Yeah.
because now you make your own decisions, and you can follow, you can hang out with this group, you can hang out with that group, you can you kind of want to be with people who are like-minded. And so I would say ever since I got to college, I kind of would always try to surround myself with guys who were like-minded and guys that had the same goal from like a Christian standpoint in mind. And so instead of, I mean, I guess you can technically call him a mentor, but it's more like, man, we did life together. You know, every time we had lunch, or every day when lunchtime happened, we were having lunch together. Every time when breakfast was happening, we would have breakfast together. You know, instead of it just being like a one time a week or a one time a month thing, it was like a daily type of growth thing. And so even when I got to the league, man, like I've been really fortunate to have some great dudes in my locker room, great leaders as well, you know, from pastors to coaches. I mean, you name it, all over. And so just kind of trying to seek those dudes out, try to find out, you know, who is real, who's really about it, who really wants to walk this walk, because it's impossible to do it on your own. You need a community, you need a group of people to kind of keep you and hold you accountable and keep you on track and share, you know, some of the things that are going on. Because people outside of this faith don't really understand, you know, why you're doing this or why you don't want to do that, and you know, all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's probably the most important thing in my opinion is a community and having a strong group of people. You know, you name it. I think what was it? Jesus had 3 really close disciples, you know, and then he had 12 as who were also he was close with, but he was really close to 3 of them. So you know, kind of trying to follow that model.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So when you're in high school, you were a Christian, but you didn't really have the relationship. You were getting a little bit mentored. So you talk about really when you go to college is really where that relationship begins to happen, because at that point, like you're saying, it's kind of like you got to take ownership. Mom and dad are not really kind of looking over teenagers so much when they get to college. It's kind of like you
Yeah.
have the responsibility, that freedom to kind of do as you please. So what would your advice be for let's say high schoolers right now that are maybe they've prayed to receive Christ, okay, they claim to be Christians, but maybe they haven't fully taken ownership? Because I think that's kind of what you're saying, like your faith you didn't really own it yet. It was more
Yeah.
like a ritual that you were doing, or maybe this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what my mom said, or this is what my grandparents told me to do, or this is what Rodney or Pastor Tom or somebody's telling me to do. So
Yeah.
what would your advice be to teenagers that are maybe in that boat?
Man, I would say pick up the Bible for yourself and read it for
Yeah.
yourself. You know, figure out what the Bible is saying, how it speaks to you. You know, what is actually true, and what is like some stuff that your parents might have told you, or you might have heard from somebody else that the Bible actually doesn't say. You know, it really has no place in the Bible, you know, for that. And so, I would say do that. I would say find a community of people that are your age, you know, and try to lead them, try to help them grow. You know, find people who you think might be interested, who might, you know, that the Spirit might be nudging you to, and I want to say attack them, but obviously don't attack them. Just, you know, have a plan and figure out like, hey, this is who God's put on my heart. And so because once you start making disciples, once the Spirit is in you, and once you start making disciples, that's kind of when you're on your own faith journey. Because I can't, if I've never met you and I'm going to talk to you about Christ, if I don't know anything about Christ, there's not much I can really say to you to give you information, you know, about this faith and this walk. And so you gotta have to have your own knowledge, you know, and be able to speak about it on your own.
Yeah, very true. Couple things there that you said. I love the statement of go and do it for yourself. You know, don't believe it just because, you know, someone told it to you. I tell that to students all the time. Like, I don't want you to be a Christian because that's what Micah said to do, or that's what Pastor Tom said to do, or that's what Rodney or some of these other people are telling you. Know why you're a Christian for yourself, which comes from, like you said, reading the Bible for yourself, understanding what did God say? What does this mean? And how do I take true ownership of that? The other great thing that I love is you keep pushing this idea of community and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Another big mistake that I see teenagers do is they go to college and then they are no longer plugged into a church, or they, you know, because either mom and dad are not forcing them to, or they just not sure where to go, and they're not, you know, hey, nobody else is doing it. I don't know, when you got to Florida, was that something that was immediately on your mind, or is that something that just happened over time? How did you get plugged into a Christian environment?
I think you just you find out when and where Bible study is. You know, I mean, if you look for it, you'll find it. If you don't look for it and you run away from it, then you'll never find it. You know, and so it's just your own personal choice. I know some guys, you know, right away they're locked in. They soon as they get to their campus, they figure out when, crew, the campus crusade is happening, or when FCA is happening, or whatever, may happen. Or, they wait a year, and then stuff starts happening, and they start falling away from their faith, and then they have no foundation, they have no comfort, and then they run, and they're rushing to find, a church, or they, a couple years goes by, and then all of a sudden something hits them, some tragedy happens, and or something, whatever may happen, and boom, then they're, running back to God as well. So I would say start early if you can, and not have to try to find it, years later.
Yeah. All right. So what was that pivotal point in college where you're like, okay, man, I've got to have this relationship? Or was it a gradual thing? What really made you start taking ownership of your faith and wanting to really pursue that more?
Well, I would say I was pretty heavily involved, especially not as much my freshman year. I was present in there, but I wasn't as involved. Like, I wasn't jumping in and trying to lead and trying to recruit guys, just because I was trying to get my feet wet and try to figure out, what is happening and where can I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm trying to push the wheel down the hill. So, what is my area of helping? And so, so I would say I was involved. I was there. I was trying to lead guys, but then my junior year, I remember specifically just walking into my girlfriend's apartment. We were going to go to dinner, and she hands me a pregnancy test, and she tells me she's pregnant. And I'm sitting there like, I'm this dude, who's supposed to be leading Bible studies, who's supposed to be recruiting guys, who's supposed to be living this walk. And I got a pregnant girlfriend now, And so from then on, my girlfriend at the time and I had a choice to either run and do opposite of what the world says, or what the Bible says, or we had a choice to stand on the word and know that we screwed up, know that we didn't do it the right way, but let's make it right as best as we can now. And so I would say from that moment on, that's really when, we started being on fire for the Lord. And yeah.
So that was that wake up call of, okay, like, hey, things have got to change, right? Like I realized maybe not that you necessarily live in a lie or a life of hypocrisy, but that you weren't on the path that you knew God had intended for you. And it's like, what can I be doing, to be a better role model, to be a better witness? Because obviously eyes were on you, right? Like you're a college athlete, and you're breaking records, you're doing a lot of things on campus. And so obviously a lot of eyes are on you. So talk a little bit about being that, whereas before we talked about the importance of having mentors, what is it like having eyes on you and watching you?
It's very wavy, very up and down. One day people love you, the next day people hate you. Next day everybody's whatever. It's a roller coaster. For the most part, a lot of times, honestly. And it's been really cool to kind of see how fleshly how you handle things, and then how you're supposed to handle things spiritually, because your flesh, you want to just eat it up. When things are going well, you want to be front and center, you want to be posting all over social media so you can get your likes and your followers and your comments up, and you want to be like this guy or this person who you might necessarily not be, fleshly. Like, that's what we physically, as human, that's what you want to be, the most popular. But then spiritually, when everything's going well, you want to do that. But when everything's going bad, you want to like hide and want to get away from the. I'm talking about like just when you're like flesh, like that's what you want. Like, you want to get away, you want to make excuses, you want to say, oh, don't blame me, blame this guy or blame that, or this is what really happened. And so it's funny, like the swing, of good and bad. You kind of want to just hide under a rock. There's been times where I've been like, man, I want to delete everything, delete all social media. I don't even want to live, wherever I'm living. I want to go somewhere and hide and just not, talk to anybody and just take my family and get away. But spiritually, it's been really cool, to see myself grow, in that area of not letting your highs get too high, not letting your lows get too low, and always having like a constant understanding or a constant faith in that, whatever, if it's good, God gets glory. If it's bad, God gets the glory. If it's great, wonderful, horrible, whatever it is, as long as God gets the glory, that's really the end all importance of all of it. And so I like to tell my guys in the locker room, like, man, win, lose, draw, record setting game, for good or bad, like, dude, it really doesn't matter, and once you have that mindset of like, man, as long as God's getting glory, I could care less, what really happens. Then you start getting the stability, you start having the foundation, you start having the purpose, and it makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, man, that's some great advice. That's some great tips. So I'm curious, when you're at Florida, you start off as quarterback, correct?
Yeah.
And then as your time there and as maybe new coaching staff, they wind up transitioning you to various positions. How did that play on your psyche? Did you want to stay at quarterback? Did you mind floating around in different positions?
Well, I wish I was good enough, honestly, to be a quarterback. I'd probably be able to play a lot longer, and I wouldn't feel like I do now. But I think it was more of a thing like, man, I want to play. I don't want to sit on the bench. And my best opportunity to play, and really, I mean, if I really look at it, like, I want to play in the NFL. And so, what's my best opportunity to play in the NFL? It definitely wasn't quarterback. I just didn't have the arm strength to do it. So, what's the next best thing that I can do? And so that's kind of what my mindset was. I wanted to play. When you're a freshman, especially when you're at like a school like Florida, freshmen don't play often. They redshirt, and the last thing I wanted to do was sit on the bench. So the driving factor was being able to play, and then the second factor was like, man, actually, I'm probably not going to play quarterback in the NFL. So how can I get a jump start at another position / career and try to make it?
All right, which that's a great tip for all young athletes out there, is being coachable, right? And being not so prideful that you're like, if I'm not a quarterback, I'm not anything. You had your sights set on a bigger goal, a bigger mission, and you were willing to do whatever, right? Put in the hard work, learn a different position, transition, listen to your coaches. I'm sure you were getting advice from maybe coaches like, hey, if you want to go to the league, you're going to probably need to change positions. I'm guessing, is that the way it went down?
Man, it sucked, bro, because playing quarterback for 4 years in high school and never getting hit except for Friday nights, and then going to college where everybody's 6 times bigger, and then having to hit somebody every single practice. Like, man, there were times where I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. Like, this is horrible. How sore I am, and just, having to hit people all the time. It sucks. Think about it. Never hitting anybody until the game time, and then now every day at practice you're hitting somebody, and then you're at college, and then you're playing under Urban Meyer, who's crazy enough, as it is. Just all those things, dude. Where it was rough. I'm not gonna lie, and it wasn't easy. But it's a team sport. It's the greatest team sport there is. And at the end of the day, like, I'm trying to win the whole thing. And that's part of the problem these days, man. Everybody's so interested in their own personal statistics, and selfish ambition. And so wherever selfish ambition is, that's, the Lord can't be there either as well. So obviously you want to do well, you want to have good stats, but then when all you're doing is focusing on that, and you're reading the newspaper articles every day, and all that other crap that goes on in this world right now, it takes focus off what's really important.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. All right. So let's transition. So you go from college to now you're getting the opportunity to go to the combine and try out and transition to the NFL. What was that experience like from kind of a spiritual standpoint? Like, where were you spiritually? Were you like, okay, whatever God's will is, or were you kind of felt like God was leading you and it was like, this is meant to be?
Yeah, no, I definitely felt like I had an opportunity. I definitely felt like he gave me these talents and abilities to play this game at a really high level. And I think, I don't think he wanted to waste the talent. I felt like I was, in a good spot spiritually. I was in a really good spot mentally. You never know with the draft what's going to happen, where you're going to go. That's the weird thing about this job, is that people pick you, and you really don't have an opportunity to say no, or for the most part, you just got to go. And so I was undrafted. I ended up getting drafted, but there was really only 1 or 2 teams that were really interested in me. We got a good amount of calls, 5 or 6 calls, but really 2 teams that really offered any type of money for us. And we also like looking back at it, those were probably the only two teams that we really had a chance to make it on. And so we were in a great spot spiritually. It was a really cool time. We just had our oldest baby. My wife was just pregnant with our second child. So I mean, just that alone, pregnancy and children is a roller coaster, you know. And now you add no job security, you know, because you don't know where you're going to be. You just get done with college, so you don't really have, you know, any finances, no money at all, you know. Probably had a couple $100 to our name.
Yeah.
And now we're, you know, making this big move to Philadelphia, you know, a city that I've been to maybe once or twice in my life, but it's a big city. You know, it's not Venice, it's not Sarasota, you know, it's not Tampa either. It's, you know, way bigger than all of those places. So now we're going to a real deal city, and not really knowing what we're going to get ourselves into.
All right. So I'm really curious, and I think this will help others. You have these expectations, right? Or at least I'm imagining you have these expectations of, hey, I'm going to get drafted. I'm going to play in the NFL. And then to go undrafted and have a few teams interested spiritually, you're like, man, I felt like God wants me in the NFL. You know, I had a great college career. Why? Did you ever question like, God, why? Why am I not getting picked up by a team? I thought this was your will for me. Like, what was that period like spiritually?
Yeah.
Like,
No, totally questioned, you know, and it wasn't until 2 or 3 years ago you really find out some of the answers. You know, I truly believe if I would have just had everything handed to me, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now. You know, at the end of the day, like God knows best, you know, what for your personality, who you are, and He knows how to give you things in a way that you'll receive it. And I feel like if I was the first pick in the draft, you know, with all this money, there's 0% chance I would have worked anywhere close to as hard as I had to have worked to get to where I am
yeah,
now. You know, there's no way I'd be in the league 7 years later. You know, I
yeah,
probably would have made it 2 years and would have been out, and would have all my money would have been gone. You know, and I probably wouldn't be married, and you know, all these negative things. And so He knew exactly what I needed at the time that I needed it. And He was, you know, faithful as He always is, you know, in those times. And your first couple years when you just get in the league and you're not drafted and you're making league minimum, it's a ton of money, but it's really not, because at the end of the day, you're making, you know, $300,000-$400,000, but that could be the last time you ever get paid, you know, for the rest of your life. And so, I mean, we all know that you can't live off of that for the rest of your life, and then after taxes, and, you know, not to get into all that, but so he knew exactly what we needed. At the time, it sucked. We were super embarrassed, you know, especially because we thought we were going to get drafted. We had a big party with our family, you know, everybody in our family on my mom's side of the family was there. Which is good, you know, a great time. But then boom, you don't get drafted, and you know, you get picked up by a team, and you got to fight your way to make it. But it was definitely embarrassing at first couple moments. But you know, like I said, God was faithful through it all.
Man, I love that. I love that story of, you know, now you got to overcome odds, because that's the way. I mean, for the majority of people, I feel like that's the way life is. It's not always. Not everybody can be the number one draft pick. Not everybody can always be the starter, always be the stud. You know, there even maybe like for you, you were that guy. You were that guy for, you know, Pop Warner, Venice, even Florida. And then all of a sudden now it's like, whoa, here's a piece of humble pie, right? Like, what in the world? You begin to kind of question, you begin to kind of wonder, but you didn't give up. Like, that's what I love. I love, okay, God gave you talents. He gave you ability. He gave you a skill set. And just because a door closed, it's not God closing the door. It's God saying, hey, here's an obstacle because I'm working on you. I've got a bigger plan that you Trey can't see my plan yet, but I've got to take you through this valley to some extent so that you can come out better, more prepared for who who I want you to be and what I've got planned for you in the future.
Yeah.
And I think so many people miss that. And I hope teenagers, young people, you listening, when you come up against a roadblock or an obstacle, that doesn't necessarily mean God's closing the door. I mean, He may, but a lot of times he wants us to work hard, right? He wants us to persevere and develop that grit and push. You know, things weren't handed to Jesus. Things weren't handed to His disciples. Look how hard those jokers had to work, you know, like it was a grind. So I love that part of your story where there was that sense of embarrassment. It's like, oh my gosh. So what do you, now you're like, I got to get after it, right? Like, like I got to go put in some hard work.
For sure. No doubt, bro. I mean, the no question about that. A lot of times as I get older and I'm going through life, you realize that rarely ever does it happen the way you want it to happen. We all have these perfect pictures or plans that we want it to, go this way. Shoot, just planning one of my children's birthdays, like parties, like, gosh, it never goes the way you ever, truly intended to go. But a lot of times it turns out better, because it's the way that God wants it to turn out or wants it to go. So no, I'm with you, man. That's 100% for sure. True.
Oh man, that's awesome. So, okay, here we go. We get to Philly. We're grinding, we're working hard, and you're just on like kickoff team or punt team or something, right? When you first get there?
Yeah. Special teams. Yeah.
Special teams. All right. So
Yeah.
again, we're starting at the bottom, like barely making, the team to some extent. You're on the special teams, but your goal is obviously much more, right? So you're grinding, you're working. So tell me a little bit about, again, as this journey of trying to continue to pursue that. What was that like?
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out a way to get in, and the way the NFL works really quickly is that there's 53 guys on each team. During training camp and off-season workouts, there's like 90, maybe 90 guys. So they fire, what is that, 37 people before the season starts, almost half the guys. And so each position only has a certain amount of guys you can have on the team, to make up the 53. So like you always have two quarterbacks, you always have a kicker and a punter. You always have, 4 wide receivers. So those are like staples. Like you have to have at least this many people. Whereas tight end, you really only carry 3 people. But when I was in Philly, I was the 6th tight end on the roster.
Wow.
During the off season. And so, I just wanted to make sure I put my best foot forward. There's a lot of doors that opened up for me, from the stance of like, special teams. And so however I can make it, you try to make it, you try to find your niche, try to find what you're really good at that time. And so special teams was it for me. I ended up being, the 53rd man on the roster. And then actually dressing for the game. So we got 53 guys on a team, but only 46 guys put pads on and play in the game. So the rest of the dudes just wear like a jumpsuit or like street clothes, on the sidelines. So I ended up being the 46th guy, on the roster. I was a backup at a lot of positions. And the first kickoff of the game, somebody gets hurt. And from then on out, I started on all 4 special teams, my first 2 or 3 years. And that was kind of my primary goal and my primary focus. But at the same time, during practice, working on my offensive game, getting better at running routes, getting better at blocking, getting more comfortable in the things that I wanted to do in the future that I knew I physically could do, just didn't have the opportunities because there's guys in front of me doing that stuff. So, just really focusing on special teams, trying to hammer that down, try to be the best I can at that specifically, but also, during the week, the Monday through Friday, making sure that, I'm in the film room watching the guys at my position, guys who I want to model my game after, and trying to make sure I'm doing that as well and not just focusing on special teams.
Putting in that extra work, right? Continuing to grind, continuing to get ready.
Yeah.
I think it was my last podcast. It was on preparation meets opportunity. Like I love that mentality. I try to teach that to my boys who are playing, Pop Warner and other sports. Always be prepared for that opportunity. And that's exactly what I'm hearing from you. You are constantly preparing. I think we lost maybe a connection here.
You there?
Yeah, I think I lost the video.
Sorry.
It's okay. There you go. Yeah. So constantly being prepared. And that's what you were doing. You were constantly preparing for that opportunity. And then you were given opportunities. And that's kind of the way your career has kind of seemed like it's progressed. It's like you get an opportunity here, you seize that opportunity and take advantage of it. And I truly believe that's what God's teaching us a lot of times is always be prepared for certain opportunities. That's part of us as humans in every aspect of our life. So that's pretty cool.
No. Yeah. No, for sure. I hear you 100%.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. I know you've spoken to our youth group before at Venice, and I remember you talking about kind of being a really almost like the team pastor to some extent when you're at Philly. How does that happen? Like, how do you come into a team? You're barely making the roster. Are you coming in immediately bold in your faith and trying to lead Bible studies, or does that happen over time? I know you also had a group of amazing Christian guys that were kind of surrounding you, and you were kind of teaming up with them. But kind of talk to us about that, because I know some teenagers are so intimidated. Like, how do I become a spiritual leader? Maybe they don't feel qualified, or maybe they're like, well, I'm not the star quarterback, so how am I gonna, lead a team in prayer or Bible study?
Yeah, well, I think we need to be ready for those times for sure. I mean, because there's going to be eventually a time where you're going to have to lead a prayer, or lead a Bible study, or step up for your faith, and talk about what you believe in. But for me, I just walked in the facility in Philly and found out that they were doing a Bible study. Um, Woke up early that morning, the next morning, to go to the Bible study, and our starting quarterback was leading it. And I remember, like, the first thing I thought of as soon as I walked through those doors and saw him open this up in prayer and start leading the study was, what am I doing with my life? Like, why I should be doing this? The leader, basically the most important person in this city for this organization, is leading a Bible study. Like, why can't I do that? And so I was really challenged by that. I was thinking to myself, like, man, where am I at in my faith? Am I able to lead a study? Am I in the Word enough to understand what it really means and be able to teach people about it? And so that whole year, I just remember, Nick Foles was the quarterback. He's in Chicago now. But that whole year it was a crazy one, man. Like, just watching and learning from him. There was players, which is different. There's players and coaches and staff around the organization in there. So there was all walks of life there, where normally typically it's just players that do it together, and then coaches do their own thing, and then staff do their own thing. So it was all three combined together. I grew a ton during that year because I was really challenged, by Nick. And so then Nick got traded the next year, and there was a void, for what Nick was doing, and there was definitely an appetite for what Nick was doing. And I think, what we found out, that's been really beneficial everywhere I've been. I've kind of been able to take it with me, is that, like, for 10 minutes every morning, let's read a chapter. Let's go through a book of the Bible. None of us are theologians. None of us are pastors, but we all have different aspects of life and different, been through different things in life. And so, boom, let's get together. Let's spend no more than 10 minutes. Let's be sensitive to everybody's time. Someone will open us up in prayer. We'll listen to the chapter really, really quickly, whether it's 5 to 6 minutes, and then anything that is interesting to us, we'll hit on it really quick, and then boom, we'll get out. And the next day we'll do the same thing, the next chapter, and then the next day, the next chapter. And so it's been really fruitful during my 7 years in the league. Something that's really easy, something that's really tangible. It's not, like I said, none of us know the Greek and the Hebrew, of the word, but we can study it and we can learn it, the night before or during those 10 minutes that we have, and just, kind of just get a different glimpse of God, every single time we go. Even if you've read the book, I mean, we're going through James right now. James is by far my favorite book of the Bible, and the book of the Bible I've read the most by far, like, not even close. But every single time we go in there and someone else tells a story about, a specific verse in James and how it's helped them, I mean, you leave changed, every single time. So that's kind of my model, and that's the way that I feel like God has pulled me and led me to lead other people, because I'm not the type of guy that's going to stand in front of 1,000 people, shoot 10 people, and speak. That's just not me. Like, I don't have that gift. I know people who have that gift and can talk for days and hours at a time, and are, I mean, really, really gifted at that. That's just not who I am. That's not what I'm comfortable with. And sometimes you got to be out of your comfort zone, and sometimes you got to take that leap of faith, for sure, 100%. But the majority of the time, be in that comfort zone where God has called you, that little niche, that God's carved out for you, and walk in that.
Yeah. So young people listening, man, that was some great advice that Trey just said. You don't have to get up and give a speech to be a spiritual leader. It may just be sparking a little interest in, like, a little Bible study. Like you said, hey, let's just take, 10, 15 minutes. We're going to read this chapter. We're going to talk about it. I mean, you don't have to make it harder than it is, right? You don't have to be this amazing theologian like Trey's saying. It's just, what did this passage, how did it speak to me? What did it mean to me? And just kind of talk about it. So that's some great advice, young people. If you feel God leading you to start something, start it, do it, take action. And like we just talked about, opportunity, preparation, meeting that opportunity. You prepare now so that when an opportunity arises, you can take advantage of that. All right, so Trey, let's keep moving through. So okay, that's happening at Philly. You wind up getting traded. You have a couple injuries. Again, I like the hard times. I like the valleys because I feel like that's where a lot of times we're growing. Not that I personally enjoy going through those,
Yeah.
but I know we learn so much, and that's what I'm curious about. Like, so during some of your injuries, well, you had two different ones, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was wild little time for our family. What was the question you were about to ask?
Okay, so you come off basically like Super Bowl champs, right? Mr. The Philly special, which I think my son's working on that for this week in Pop Warner, by the way. But
Nice.
so you're coming off all these highs, right? And then what was the time frame between that and then an injury?
1 year basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
1 year.
So you got to be thinking, wait a minute, God, I just accomplished all this. Like I feel like things are going good, and you got traded in the meantime, correct?
My contract was up in Philly, so I was
Okay.
a free agent, and then I
Okay.
signed
Free
with
agent.
Chicago.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Signed with Chicago. And then how many games did you get in Chicago before the injury?
The whole year.
Okay.
It
So you
was
did the
actually
whole
it was
year.
it was in the playoffs. Was when I got hurt.
And then you're
The first
thinking,
round.
God, what's going on? Right. So walk me through the spiritual when you get injured and it's not going to be a quick, pop right back up the next week. Where are you spiritually with that?
Um, I mean, honestly, just because of the foundation that was created really early on. I guess not really early on, but when I was in college, and with all the highs and lows that you go through in college, my faith has never wavered. It's never like, yeah, we have questions like, man, what's going on? But instead of like questioning God at like who he is, like at his core, it's more of like, man, like, what are you trying to show me through these times? Like, how can I, like I said before, like win, lose or draw, good, bad, ugly, hurt, not hurt, whatever the
Yeah.
situation is, like, how can we use this spiritually to benefit God, and so now I got a lot of free time on my hand because I'm injured. What can I do? Where can I point my attention to? How can I work on my marriage? How can I raise my children in a God honoring way? And so a lot of times, those things kind of get pushed aside during the season because you're so focused on, the job at hand or the tasks that you have. And so, um, that it was tough, obviously physically, obviously fleshly, to not be able to play and have to take all the heat and all the crap that you take from people from that standpoint. But I mean, my wife's been awesome. Like I said, I have a great group of people surrounding us. But yeah, it's not easy, to watch ESPN every single day or have your kids, to come up to you and say some kid was talking trash about you at school, and it made me really sad, and all that type of stuff. But that's part of the job.
Mm. So again, I love the mindset, the perspective of, okay, well, I can't go out there on the field and do what I want to do, but what is maybe God teaching me, or what other opportunity is there? And again, it's that insight of, okay, well, I'm not going to just sit here and pout. I'm not going to sit here and complain and just, read these negative social media posts all day long. I'm going to work on my marriage. I'm going to work on my faith. I'm going to work on my
Yeah.
relationship with my kids. So young people, he's giving you so much wisdom. And adults, I have adults that listen to, guys. Just because a door seems to close, or there's some kind of heartache or something bad that happens, there can be something good. Like Trey was like, okay, I'm going to use this for good, for benefit. Like, what can I do in the meantime? Because you can't change that. I mean, he can continue to try to work on his health, but he saw opportunity to work on other things that were, like he said, maybe taking a little bit of a back seat, or not necessarily a back seat, but not getting the time and attention that now he could devote to that, to work on that. So good stuff there, Trey. Love that. All right. So you bounced back from that injury, and did you get traded now to, or was
Indy.
how did Indianapolis come about?
I got fired in Chicago after 2 years, and so they fired me, and then I was done. I was gonna retire. Didn't want to play anymore, just because of all the stuff I've been going through physically, and just wasn't in a good spot physically at all. It was had a surgery I probably didn't need to have, and then had another surgery that I did need to have, and there's just a long recovery time with all of it and all the stuff that we went through. And so we were done. I was going to retire. My family wanted me to be done with ball. My kids are getting older now. And then as soon as I got fired, there was a ton of interest. We got a lot of calls from a bunch of different teams, and so the interest was there. That's one thing you always worry about. Are people going to be interested, or do they still want you to come and play? And so we were good. If no one called, and since there were a good amount of calls, it had to be the right opportunity for us, and
Right.
we felt like Indy was a great spot. Something that we really prayed about a lot. There's a lot of conversation about within the family, and we just felt like it was the best idea for us to try it one more year, and so that's why we're here in Indy right now.
That's awesome, man. So what's the spiritual atmosphere like with Indy? Have you been able to start Bible studies there yet, or is it still kind of new and you're still kind of feeling your way around?
Yeah, it's great, man. Actually, there's a really, really good chaplain here who does an awesome job at our twice a week Bible studies that he does. Our head coach is a really solid believer. Went to seminary. I think he preached for a while.
Wow, that's awesome.
Played a long time in the league. One of our teammates actually just got baptized 3 days ago at the church of the chaplain. So
Wow, that's
just really
great.
cool. Really cool time here. Really cool atmosphere. From a spiritual standpoint. And yeah, we started our morning study. I think last week was the first time we started it, so that's been going really well in the mornings. And so it's good. Can't complain.
That's terrific, man. That's terrific. Well, I know family's huge for you. And I know your wife, you've talked multiple times about how she's a solid rock for you, right? She's a
Yeah,
spiritually, she helps push you, motivates you, encourage you. Obviously, I always try to tell teenagers, it's important who you surround yourself with from friend standpoints, which you've talked about that, but also when you're dating and when you're getting married, it's so important to marry someone who is at least your equal spiritually, or that it's going to push you and motivate you to marry a believer for sure. So
yeah.
what advice would you give? Obviously, you've had a lot of ups and downs and it's been quite a career roller coaster. But having that rock of a wife beside you spiritually, what advice would you give young people in the dating and marriage, looking for a partner?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at right now from a dating standpoint. I have my oldest is a daughter. She's a girl, not a daughter. She's 7 years old, and so it's definitely something that my wife and I have talked about. I think dating in 2020 is way different than dating when we were children, and um, there's a lot of different motives, I think, these days than there were when we were younger. I think shoot, I mean, even when we were younger it was kind of crazy too, but it's not as pure now as it used to be. And so um I would be really careful, for sure, for one, who you're dating. I would say just because your friends are in a relationship or maybe dating, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in a relationship, or date as well. But then I would also say, like, man, you got to be really careful, especially at all times, especially when you're not married, because I know firsthand that all it takes is one time, and boom, now you have a child. And so you definitely want to make sure, if you're in a relationship, that it's honoring and pleasing to God. Um, but also, I mean, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship until you're ready to get married. I don't know if you should really dabble in that. I think you should be really cautious. There's not a problem with being friends. You can get to know somebody by being a friend with them as well. And so I just think you have to be really careful. I don't think the religious way that has been thrown around, and especially when I was a kid, of like, um, how especially women these days have to deal with the negative sense of like sex is good. God intended sex to be
Yeah.
good and to be pleasing to him. Like, there's a time and a place for that, obviously after you're married, for it. But like, people get so beat down in their head, like, oh, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. Like, instead of focusing on what you shouldn't be doing, like, focus on what you can be doing, what God is allowing, in that time of your life.
Yeah, that's good advice, man. Well, Trey, I appreciate you being on. Like, so as we kind of do a takeaway, what are some truths that you think if I could kind of leave just a couple truths with these teenagers, young adults that are listening, to help them as much as possible in their faith journey, in their growing in their relationship with Christ, what are some of those truths that you've kind of grasped onto, or God has taught you that you feel like, man, this is kind of some of those pieces of advice that I'd really give young people today as they're, trying to live for Christ or trying to make their way through life?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, the easiest thing I can think of, or first thing that comes to my head, is that like once you take one step towards God, or Jesus or Christ, He's going to be sprinting towards you. And so wherever you're at in your life, whatever's going on, however far away you think you are from Him, all you need to do is point yourself in His direction, and He's sprinting, and He's not meeting you halfway. He's not meeting you a third of the way. He'll come the whole entire way to meet you and be with you in those times. So I would say that's one thing I've experienced, wholeheartedly. I would say the next thing is eventually your relationship with Christ is going to have to be personal. You're not going to be able to feed off of, relatives or family like we spoke about, early on. So I would say that for sure. That's another thing I've experienced. And then the third thing I've experienced is my favorite verse in the Bible, Jeremiah 29:13. And it says, "You will seek me and you'll find me when you search for me with all your heart." And so until you truly are all in, until you truly, it's like a swimming pool analogy. You can put your foot in the pool, you can go stand in waist deep, or you can jump in and be fully submerged with the water and be wet, and dripping. And so until you truly dive in and seek after Him with your whole heart, it doesn't just say like half your heart, or doesn't just say like, emotionally, like, every once in a while, or half in, half out. Because I've lived that life, I've been in half in, I've had one foot in, I've been toe in the water, I've been ankle in the water, knee in the water, waist in the water. But until you truly jump in all the way, and you truly seek after Him with your whole heart, then you'll find Him. And yeah, so those are some of the things I would say and leave you with.
Awesome, man. Well, Trey, we're blessed to have you on the podcast, man. Blessed to be your friend and to have you sharing truth with teenagers and young adults. Wish you nothing but the best, continued success, and continue to have a major impact as God blesses you in your role as a spiritual leader and as an athlete and as a father and a husband. So appreciate you being on. Guys, thank you for tuning into the podcast. Please, if you have not, subscribe, share this. Trey just shared some amazing truth that can benefit a whole lot of people out there, but you need to share this content with others so that they hear it. Trey, where can people find you, man? Where's the best way to follow you, to keep up with you? Is that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? What are you?
I think I just have Twitter and Instagram now, and I don't run them for the most part. I run my Twitter every once in a while. That's probably what I'm on the most. But it's Trey Burton 8 at Trey Burton 8. And so yeah, you can follow me on those two things.
All right, there you go, people. All right, guys. Well, God bless, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
I don't wanna be just someone that's new. I speak my mind so free, so you could hear the truth. Yeah, I know that we